Badin Zavan, Amajan Loje, Lagi, Jibur Bemene Juna, Gadin, Jamgon, Jesu, Koson Doge, Kojo Dada, Sinjan Jegi, Kochus and Nova, Singela, Chilando Nova, Singela, Truba Sova, Singela, Truba Yishizo Java, Singela,
I'm very happy and like to thank to the Berkeley Dhammadhatu to have this opportunity to make this dharmic connection with all of you, and it is a great pleasure for me to be here and to be talking with you. Generally speaking, that when you are attending a seminar of a Dharma, that both who is receiving the teaching and both who is giving the teaching should develop a pure motivation. The pure motivation referring to the altruistic mind, that the purpose of your receiving and the purpose of giving the teaching is to benefit all living beings. So please do cultivate that pure altruistic attitude. The subject of our talk here, among the three vehicles or teachings that Buddha taught, that we are dealing with the Bodhisattva vehicle, that which is known as Lojong or the mind training. So our week and seminar is based upon this mind training of the Bodhisattvayana. This Bodhisattvayana is also known as Mahayana, which expresses here of the Maha, symbolizing great or big. Yana, or in Tibetan, which is the Tekpa, has the meaning of lifting or raise, to raise. So here, the whole idea is that the strength of what you need to lift is not a small, but a great or big. Now, the idea of Mahayana should not really confuse, or rather, you should not discriminate with other vehicles such as Hinayana. Explaining the Mahayana does not mean that other teachings such as Hinayana is a lesser vehicle, which is again translated, must not be understood as that Hinayana means that you cannot achieve enlightenment. They all has again that potential to achieve an enlightenment. And it is also the path towards the enlightenment. But then why this very topic that we are dealing with is known as Mahayana, the big vehicle, is that the attitude, the mind, becomes different in the Hinayana and that of the Mahayana. In the idea of the Hinayana, one is striking towards the achievement of enlightenment for self alone. Although the enlightenment is there. In the Mahayana, the reason why it's called greater or vehicle is that one is again striving here to achieve enlightenment for self and for the limitless sentient being. So therefore your mind or the capacity of the attitude becoming a tremendously big or vast in this sense, it has given the term or name as Maha or big. As such, therefore, that this Bodhisattva Yana, the development or the cultivation of the bodhicitta, is the root of all the vehicles actually to actually achieve enlightenment in the faster sense. This bodhicitta, to define such, is actually the cultivation, the development of true, sincere love and compassion. That's the bodhicitta. Such that the attitude becoming not self-centered, not being selfish, but rather in Mahayana being altruistic for the liberation of self and all the limitless sentient beings. Because of that pure altruistic attitude, the path is more quick and rapid to rapid and profound to achieve enlightenment. So the benefits of the practice with the bodhicitta is explained in the Bodhicharya Avatara, that it is again beyond imagination. He has given the benefits in simple example, such as that any practice you do with the absence of bodhicitta is like a tree that is dependent upon the water. When the water dries, sorry, not water. That is literal name anyway. Any practice that you do with the absence of bodhicitta is like a banana tree. Once it has given a fruit, then it cannot produce fruit again. This is the particular tree which is literally Tibetan called is a water tree. So it has covered with many layers of skin, but rather than that, it has no such as a basic root to produce next fruit. Once it has produced one fruit, there's no second fruit to produce. So therefore that Mahayana path becomes very much the foundation, the ground towards the path, towards the enlightenment or Buddhahood. The very ground or the foundation of the path of all Sutayana, Tantayana, and that of the Hinayana, that very much becomes like foundation. So that bodhicitta, enlightened mind, becomes essential in our practice. Now when we say that we have to cultivate, or in other words develop the bodhicitta, we're not requesting everyone to develop or cultivate something new in us. We're simply again referring to what is there already, to simply use what is already within ourselves. So we have to learn to use or make use of our loving kindness and compassion. Making it useful becomes bodhicitta. Again, we must not think as something we have to develop new in ourselves. It is very much our natural state of mind. People did claim that it's very difficult for developing a bodhicitta, but I can prove logically that every one of us, our nature is being very much loving kindness. I can prove that with logic. Not me. You have to forget this person if I say. So, therefore, for example, that any other sort of conflicting emotion, particularly let us take the example of the tremendous anger, and this conflicting emotion, klesha, is not our nature of state of the mind. But at that very moment, because of the strength of that very aggression or anger, we lose our control, our whole mindfulness, our whole awareness, our all senses are being overwhelmed by that very conflicting emotion which we call as anger.
I want to say in English a little bit, what is the proof is, the first thing is when people get angry, that time we have no really mindfulness. Once we get angry, and then we couldn't feel what's happening during that time. And that is the pure sign that that's not really our own true nature. And then after that, you got angry, and then there is nobody says, I enjoy it while I'm, angry. Everybody somehow, they felt some guilty or sad. And that's the second reason. And then third reason, not only yourself, and then somebody, who even nothing to do with that, you're angry, but just by looking from the distance, and they feel it, and the feeling of that is very uncomfortable. I mean, everybody wants to avoid from that. Nobody wants to go in front of the person who's really angry. So that proves that this is not really the angry, or this is our not true nature. And then, now when we look at the other way, when we really compassionate, love, and it brings, the happiness. Just by,
by nature. So by nature that brings sort of bliss, happiness,
and
with effortless nature, becomes very much effortless. It also brings very much gentleness in oneself, whereas when you're angry, you're shaking with anger and you become more nervous. But here, when you're compassionate, loving, you physically become very gentle or calm. So when you are kind and gentle by nature, the others who are observing, they experience some sort of gentleness, kind, and enjoys naturally again participating, talking, communicating with you because you have the quite gentle nature. So that proves that the nature of all of us, all living beings, is very much loving kindness, compassion. They enjoy that gentleness, they enjoy love and compassion. So that very nature, having given many names or synonyms, it has Buddha nature, the Tathagata Garbha, or that is what we call just now the bodhicitta is what we are talking about. Also that the bodhicitta is very much nature of everybody's mind. Now we have not recognized that very nature of ourselves due to again confusion and that of the dualistic idea and fixation upon the self, existing of I or self, we are unable to recognize that very nature of ourself, which is the Buddha nature or the bodhicitta. So since we are unable to recognize, be aware of our own nature of the mind, in order to experience, realize that nature, at present we need to do what is called as mind training. In the mind training, you train your mind towards the experiencing that bodhicitta, and therefore that very bodhicitta, again, when you experience the ultimate sense, is the very nature of your mind. So that training is necessary, the mental mind training. So there are many forms of mind training practice that we are dealing here is known as the 7-point mind training of the Atisha. Atisha himself obtaining such a great transmission from a great master known as Selingpa. And thereafter, in the form of the tradition of the Kadamba, that it was transmitted down, and particularly that this training deals with very much the explanation by a great Kadamba teacher, also known as Chekawa. So we are dealing here with the 7-point mind training of the Adisha. We have to deal with the slogan which explains that one must practice first the preliminary practice. Now again, that in order to train oneself towards the experiencing, realizing the ultimate sense of the bodhicitta, that the foundation or the preliminary practice becomes very essential, and therefore the very first mind training is the preliminary practice. The preliminary practice, that as we have explained earlier, the reason why we are unable to be aware or realize our very nature of the mind is because of the obscuration, habitual pattern that is developed due to our dualistic mind, that developed due to the fixation of the existing of self or ego. Therefore, in order to awaken ourselves from that very basic sense of the ultimate nature of our mind, which is bodhicitta, one tries to visualize one's guru above one's crown. Having visualized your guru above your crown, then also trusting and thinking that very guru that you have visualized above your crown is the embodiment, the essence of the Buddha of 3 times. That feeling, trust should be very much total. Having had that trust and the visualization, then with one pointedly one prays to that guru who is the embodiment of the Buddha of 3 times, requesting him to awaken you so that you can realize the very nature of your mind. You can cultivate or experience. You can cultivate or experience the ultimate bodhicitta, or develop, take birth to the ultimate bodhicitta. As such, when you are requesting in the form of sadhana or prayer, and as a result to your invocation and the prayer, you visualize that very guru dissolves into yourself and awakening the energy of your mind to experience the ultimate bodhicitta. This is a form of what we call as guru yoga, practice to develop or experience ultimate bodhicitta. So this is the first, what we talk about, the preliminary practice. And because of the blessing and kindness of the guru and that of the blessing of the lineage holders, you are made capable and able to experience the ultimate bodhicitta. So that is the first preliminary practice. And second is the 4 thoughts that turns your mind from the samsara. The 4 thoughts which is found in the Mahamudra practice is that first you contemplate upon the preciousness of your human birth. And because it's very precious, that you try to use it meaningfully. And therefore, in the second thought, you contemplate impermanence. The time of the death is uncertain, therefore you should not waste. Understanding the impermanence, the time of the death is uncertain, therefore you should not waste. Understanding the impermanence, uncertainty of everything, one must also contemplate upon the impermanence, and therefore the second thought. And in the third contemplation is that if you do not use the precious human birth more meaningfully towards the accumulating of the positive karma, then that you contemplate upon the laws of karma, that if you indulge engage in the unwholesome negative actions of the body, speech and mind, the result of karma is unfailable, and therefore you are bound to experience the negative result of karma. So you contemplate here the cause and effect of karma and its result, which is unfailable. And lastly, the meaninglessness of very samsara. So when you contemplate upon those four thoughts, then this is what is known as contemplating upon these four thoughts incites you to turn yourself away from samsaric condition towards the liberation. So this is the four thoughts that is found in the Mahamudra practice. And so based upon the four thoughts, then you are also able, that gives you the capacity or strength to realize, experience bodhicitta. So that's how you contemplate while you're in meditation. During the post-meditation, one must not forget whole idea of the bodhicitta, but must maintain. Must maintain that very idea of bodhicitta, and that you try to conduct your body, speech and mind with accordance to the whole idea of bodhicitta. So therefore that based upon the four contemplations that turns your mind from this samsara, based upon that four thoughts, then one must conduct physically, verbally and mentally, even during the post-meditation state, to the virtuous action of body, speech and mind. And that must be done with caution and mindfulness while you are out in the world, so to speak, when you're not in the meditation hall. So we'll leave here tonight with the two preliminary practices, and tomorrow we'll continue with the actual or ultimate bodhicitta. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask.